Hi and welcome back to the second stage of my bridge building. I've gone ahead and cut all the planks that are going to span the framework that we made in the last session, all stacked up here ready to go. I've cut them, I haven't rubbed them or prepped them or anything at this stage because I just don't think it's necessary. This is going to be outside for a long time, and as I said before, I'm going to preserve everything on this, so I think I'm going to be wasting time just rubbing it down. It's never going to be a prize-winning piece of engineering. This is just simply a very easy, simple build, so I can get my tank to run over some obstacles and the likes of that. So really, all I'm going to need for this stage of the build, now I've cut all these, is my drill, which has got a 6mm drill bit in it, because I want to drill through these cleanly. Because it's softwood, it will prone to split. So if I drill through cleanly, and then run the fixing through that without splitting the wood or putting any tension on the wood, that'll be fine. I've got my impact driver preset with my socket on the end to suit the fixings I'm using, which are a 25mm 5mm gauge hex fixing with a threaded, like a pre-drilled or self-drilling tip on the end. I've got my hammer that I've had over 30 years. I've got my spring-loaded centre punch, and I've got some packers just to make sure that the spacing in between these planks are the same. Now, I've done a rough calculation of how many I'm going to need across here. I will ultimately have to reduce the thickness of one of these down, or a couple of these down, as I get to the end. So my plan is I'm going to work from the ramp end either side, and then start working in towards the centre of the bridge, and then work out as I get closer to the centre of the bridge how many of these or what I need to do to reduce these. I don't think there's a lot to come off them, but and I think it will be unnoticeable when it's finished. So what I've got is I've got 2 fixings in each one of these planks, not for any other reason other than a central fixing in something like a 44mm piece of wood like that, with only 12mm, when it's exposed to elements, if it's not properly protected, will want to curve up. So I've put fixings either side to keep them down, and then I've just sort of put a nail, one of these sort of vanishing head nails down the center here. I haven't glued it. I don't think I need to, because there's a lot of grip on these. And then also, when this is all sealed up and painted and preserved, it'll be fine. And I just use this, as I said, to pack in between, to get a consistent gap between that. So, and the reason I'm putting a gap in it is that it's going to be outside, it's going to rain, and when the rain runs through, I want it to run off or through these gaps. I don't want it to pond or anything on the bridge. So what I'll probably do now is probably speed up the whole process, go and get the rest of my fixings I need, various bits and pieces, and my wonderful son will probably speed this up. So I just thought I'd just take a break from what I'm doing for a moment, just to talk you through As you can see, it's all starting to come together very nicely. The ramp is now formed. This here didn't really need a separator in between, and I will be using my sanding machine just to take that sharp edge off, but I'm really pleased the way that's starting to come together. So obviously, being softwood, the wood in its very nature is going to want to bow and twist and everything else. So the way around that is, don't worry, when you cut it, you'll see it sort of trying to twing out of position or whatever, but don't worry about that. Get your fixings in first, either end, pack it off left and right, and then so far it's been all right, but and then if you need to use a clamp or making sure that you've got pressure on, you can take the packers out of this end because they're fixed, put the packers in where the nail fixings are going to go, and then either using a bit of brute force or a bit of your own strength, or using clamps or whatever, you can pull that down into position with the packer in place and nail it home, and that makes it nice and straight. So I'm going to carry on, but I just thought I'd talk you through this section, and it's really interesting because although it's only 12 mil, and in essence it's quite thin, but in scale terms I think it's about right. You can already start to feel it's a lot of strength on the head because of the framework that we built in the previous session. So really pleased the way the frame is handling this. I have no concerns whatsoever about my tank running over this. I mean, the tank is, it's here, I don't know if you see your camera, but it's a big old thing, it's heavy as hell, but I don't think it's gonna, it's gonna be an issue. Over time, maybe, and depending, the surface will wear because of the metal tracks, and guarantee it's gonna wear, but I'm already thinking ahead. I'm thinking, well, what I could do is I could probably put a plate over it or something like that, but I'm going to see how it goes. But I think the amount of times, I'm not driving the tank on this like every day and every minute and every hour, etc. So the occasional time this tank runs over this bridge as a bit of an obstacle backwards and forwards, I think it's going to hold up very well. And again, as long as I put enough preservative on it, enough stain, so that if it does wear through, you don't see the raw timber underneath. So obviously I'll carry on and we'll get to the end of this. And then once we've done that, I'll probably start sanding it, or I may even start building the superstructure up this end. So just thought I'd share that with you, and I'm going to carry on and do this in time lapse and speed up the way my son does it best. So that's it. The base is pretty much done, apart from these central panels here, which I haven't fixed yet, and I'll explain why in a moment. But I'm really pleased how this is starting to look. I mean, obviously it still needs a bit of work, rubbing down and what have you, but using basic materials and fixings, you know, I'm really happy with the ramp, how it all feels. It feels really strong. I have no problems at all worrying about my tank driving over it whatsoever. As I said before, I mean, it will wear down eventually, but only the surface wear. But it's really strong enough to take this tank. I'm already starting to think about some of the detailing we're going to put on this, but I'll move on to that later on. So the next stage for this particular part of the build is for me to work out how I'm going to build the structure and the sort of the, if you like, the dummy suspension bridge element of it, and all the other bits I've got in my head to do. But inevitably I'll probably have to take some of these fixings out as I bring the beam down here. I'm going to have to connect in through the side of this. Is partially the purpose of having this higher, both sides and both ends. And then, but that's not a problem because these are nailed down now. They're not going to go anywhere. And what I'll do is once I take these fixings out, I'll probably put a couple of nails in there just to stop them from moving. And then the actual beam that comes down will hold those in place. So this bit I've kind of worked out, as you saw on my drawing, but I still need to just cut a few bits of material, test fit, and play around with it. But I'm really starting, you know, I'm getting buzzy about the fact that, you know, I will have something that I can drive my tank over, you know, within a relatively short time. And as I said, I haven't spent any more money on this. I don't think I'm going to need to. I mean, apart from the paint, which I haven't bought yet, but I've already priced that up, and it's still within my budget that my target budget. So went really straightforward. The only thing I had to cut down was the middle piece, which I did say that I thought I'm going to have to, because, you know, this isn't, again, like, it's not perfect science. This is something that has come out of my head onto a piece of paper and then through onto my bench. And I'm not putting this in for a competition. This is purely just something that I'm building that I can drive my tank over, rather than just putting a makeshift thing in the garden. I wanted to build something that looks pretty smart. So I'm really pleased, and don't get hung up on being, you know, a perfectionist with this. It's just, and you know, it's some just basic things to help you would be, you know, to try and align these fixings. All I did is I used I've got a 15mm batten here. I just scribed all the way down a line down around both sides. That gave me a guide to put my fixings in. Using my center punch, I was able to follow that line, so the fixings have gone in reasonably straight. I did the same thing with a pencil line down here, and I followed that with my, you know, center punch nail. So it's gone in really well. Really pleased. I couldn't be more pleased really. I can actually visualize my tank driving over this now. So the next part of this is for me to start, just although I've got a sort of idea in my head about how this frame's going to work here and here the other side, I just need to sort of do a bit of working out on that, and a few practice cuts, and then once I've got my head around it, I'll show you the next stage of this build. So that's it. I think I'm happy with how I've got this set up. So I've sort of worked out the angle, and it's not quite, it's about 40 degrees rather than 45 degrees, so I can get this sort of angle to run down pretty much in line with the start of the ramp. Again, I've changed the way I want to do this, but that's the beauty of doing it from scratch. You can do that as and when. So instead of me putting these on the inside, I'm now actually going to take them and drill them and bolt them through into the main frame here. A couple of fixings top and bottom to connect this to this. Duplicate that, duplicate the other side exactly the same, and then I'm going to run a transom across the top here with various bits of wood I can find. Again, just from the first initial pack. And I'll put a list of materials that I've used for this on this video, or one of the videos. Put the transom across and start building up the frame, and then it's pretty much down to whether or not I'll put some handrails on it or start building up the detail. But today, really, to finish the session off, I want to get this frame in, across, transoms across, both sides done. So I'll probably speed the rest of this up. Again, just using basic tools, no different to what I've been using. Cordless drill, cordless socket or driver, and I'm going to be using the hex bolts to fix these through, using all the timber that I've previously ordered for this project. No surprises. So I'll crack on, and we'll see how we get on. So that's it. That's today's session over. Very happy with the progress of the bridge, which I'll show you in a moment. So I've done all the elements that I wanted to do, which are the planks for the base of the bridge and the main sort of, if you like, the dummy suspension system. So yeah, that's the bridge as it currently looks. I'm pretty pleased with that. You can see the size of it. It's but it does need to be this sort of scale to get the Tiger or any tank, 1/6 scale tank, across it. So all the planks have now been cut in around the main uprights, and all the fixings that I need to put in for the transom are in place. I've got a bit more dressing to do around that, and some detailing, and looking at ways of possibly introducing certainly some machine gun nests on the end of the bridge here, both sides, front and back, and possibly putting in some handrails, but that'll be on the next session. And I have got some news. So my news is I have placed an order for my next project, which is the M26 Pershing tank from Armortek. It's not due for release though until another 2 or 3 weeks, or possibly into early March, mid-March. But I'm really excited. I'm going to video that whole project as well. But I just thought that this project, my little bridge build here, will be of interest to you. And when it's all finished and painted and everything else, if I get a good dry day, I'll get the tank rolling over the top, over it, and we'll see. And I'll do some more driving videos. But thanks again for watching. This is me, Tony. Just built a bridge. Really appreciate all your support. And if you can carry on subscribing and thumbs up, you know what to do. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.